Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s. This is episode 192, recorded June 21st, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host Jeff Mohr and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. Tonight we have a very special episode. We'll get to that here in a second, but stick with us so you can find out. You've probably read the show header, so you know, but hang on. But let me introduce the crew, starting off with the one and only Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited about tonight's show. So let's get on.
Let's do it. Also joining us is writer, director, special effects guru, and all-around nice guy, the one and only Bill Mulligan. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I am noticing a lot of logginess when you guys are talking. So that because I'm in a different location. So if I just nod inappropriately or you ask me a question and I just stare blankly, just give it a couple seconds and I'll catch up.
Yeah, just like in real life when we're talking.
Just like it's like no different for any other week. Yeah.
All right. Well, before I introduce our final guest here, a little introduction is due. What episode was it, Jeff, that we originally reviewed Let's Scare Jessica to Death, the 1971 feature?
Episode 45.
45.
Over 6 years ago, and this is 192. So
yeah. And it was me, you, and Santos.
Another 150 70s horror movies.
All right. So we are happy to revisit this film, and with our special guest, the writer and director of said film, the one and only, I guess, John D. Hancock. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Before we get into reading the card and everything, I just wanted to ask you a real quick question about Let's Scare Jessica to Death now. Do you get a lot of fans talking to you about it? Do you get a lot of people reaching out to you about the film?
I do. It has a kind of cult quality, and I mean, I get invited to strange screenings at midnight where people are dressed in hoodies with special teeth, and, you know.
Those are horror fans.
Yep, we know those guys. All right.
Yeah.
Jeff is
Our tribe.
Our tribe, exactly. Jeff's going to give us a little bit of a spiel, and then we'll dive back into some questions. Glad to have you here, sir.
So, John, we usually throw one of these up, and feel free to correct me if any of this information is wrong, just to make sure that our viewers and listeners are all on the same page. Again, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and obviously that year is wrong. It's 1971. Can't have one of these without a typo. Directed by John Hancock and written by John Hancock, and from an original script by Lee Kalcheim. Although the credits say Ralph Rosa and Norman Jonas. We'll have to ask you why that is. The cast includes Zora Lampert, Mary Claire Costello, Barton Heyman, Kevin O'Connor, Gretchen Corbett, and Alan Manson. Production company is the Jessica Company. IMDb lists Paramount as a production company, but I think it didn't come into effect. It didn't come into the story until after it was already completed and they distributed it. Filmed in Connecticut. And the filming dates, the information I found, that started on October 16th, 1970, and took about 26 days. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Their budget listed again in IMDb as an estimated $250,000.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Release date August 27th, 1971. Now, here's where we get into. We always have mixed information on this. A website that I use called ultimatemovieranking.com said 4.1 million. Another one said 1 million. So I don't know where it comes in.
Well, I think more than either one of those. But
oh, nice.
Well, good,
yeah.
Good, excellent.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, and the ultimate. See, I don't know about Ultimate Movie Ranking. Some sources just list rentals. Some of them are actual box office. So
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. The synopsis, it's about the nightmarish experiences of a psychologically fragile woman who comes to believe that another strange, mysterious young woman she has let into her home may actually be a vampire.
Yeah.
And that is Mary Claire Costello in this shot.
Yep.
As she walks out of the lake. Looking decidedly
yeah, she's
disturbing.
Not good.
Yeah. Well, she's pale. Her eyes are kind of hollowed out. It was freaky to me. It was scary.
Yeah.
All the water scenes were scary. Whenever they get near the water, it gets scarier and scarier.
Oh, yeah.
So once Paramount got a hold of this, John, did you have anything to do with the marketing?
No, but I think they did a sensational job. I mean, I was thrilled with the campaign and the poster and the way they opened it. And it was
great.
I think Frank Yablans oversaw it personally, and he really that was a good guy. Charlie Glenn was their PR guy there, and they really did a great job of selling it. Yeah.
Well, excellent. So we usually show a few posters here. That's the one we see the most of, and that's the cover of the Scream Factory Blu-ray. And a couple other ones.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if those are television ads or just
I don't know either.
What those are from. But anyway, so I don't know. We just to talk about this in general, I want to run through, before we get into this too far, I kind of wanted to run through John's career besides this, just quickly showing up some posters. So these are films that John directed in the 70s and I'm going to warn everybody, I went on a binge. I went on a Hancock binge.
You watched them all? Oh my goodness.
over the last week. I've always loved Bang the Drum Slowly, and I tear up every time I watch it.
Sure.
Although I get really mad at Henry Higgins because he didn't send him the scorecard from the World Series.
Huh.
But I assume, since the author of the book wrote the screenplay, that was the way it was.
Yeah.
Also, Baby, and you've directed a lot of really well-known actors that I look over the years. Robert De Niro, Michael Moriarty, and Vincent Gardenia were in Bang the Drum Slowly. Then in Baby Blue, Marine, Jan Michael Vincent, and Glennis O'Connor, among others.
Nice.
California Dreaming is an interesting movie. You got a hold of Dennis Christopher before he hit it. And that's kind of a fun movie. Then in the 80s, there was Prancer. It's probably the most well-known one that I know of besides Bang the Drum Slowly. Weeds with Nick Nolte.
Oh my goodness.
Piece of Eden with a lot of people. Tyne Daly, among others.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if did I get all these on there?
Looking Glass and Girls of Summer.
So let me think about this. I have to think if I got this right. Yeah. So the little girl that starred in Prancer was also the star of A Piece of Eden, right?
Yep.
As an adult.
And then played a part in another film I did, a scary picture called Suspended Animation. Yeah.
Right.
Smaller part.
Excellent.
Yeah. I also did a television show with her that one of the Danny Aiello series.
Oh, yeah. Della Ventura, was that the?
Yeah, right.
And then these are the two most recent ones that I saw anyway. The Looking Glass, which I think was it originally Swan Song?
Yeah.
And that's your wife starred in that, Dorothy Tristan. And by the way, condolences on the loss of your wife recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then The Girls of Summer, which is a kind of a fun one about a
drummer in a country girls band.
Yes. And that actually came out, I think that was 2020, correct? And The Looking Glass is 2015.
I think so.
Now, these are sort of the genre ones that I could find. I guess I left off Suspended Animation, but you directed 5 episodes of The Twilight Zone in the 80s.
Right.
And I watched those, and those are 4 out of 5 of those I thought were great. I absolutely love them. Well, the one with Tony LoBianco didn't hit me as
okay.
well.
I forget it. Yeah.
I love the JFK one, and
yeah, that was a good one. Profiles in Courage.
Yeah, and The Saucer of Loneliness. I love.
Oh, the JFK one. Wow.
Profile in Silver. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got
and then there's the sort of the Jaws 2.
Yeah, where I got fired. So
debacle, and Wolfen, which we want to ask you about at some point here.
Okay.
We know you're involved in post-production. Is that correct?
Yeah. One of my favorites.
And I shot a little bit of it. I mean, yeah, I came in and post and tried to repair it and cut it down to a releasable length.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of Jaws 2, right?
Yes, right.
Right. So tell us about that, I guess. What does that involve? Because I'm not involved in film at all. I'm sitting here in the middle of the cornfield again in Iowa, so I'm curious as to what's the director's role in the post-production process.
Well, I oversaw the editing and the mix, and tried to shot a couple scenes to clarify the plot. Shot the wolves. They had no pictures of the wolves, and so that.
Oh, really?
The wolves were difficult to shoot in Wall Street, so we shot them.
I can imagine.
There
are wolves in Wall Street, right?
We made Wall Street on the Warner's lot or the Columbia lot and shot them there.
Okay.
It was running 4 hours, right? And
okay.
Yeah.
Wadley was refusing to cut it, so they replaced him and brought me in, and I brought in a new editing team, and we tried to make it so it was scary rather than boring and full of. It had too much environmental message. He had gone. It was an extremely scary book that had somehow turned into this bloated movie. The scenes, some scenes needed to move slower, many scenes needed to be eliminated. So that's what I did.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if they hadn't,
I think it did a great job because.
Thank you.
I was asking if they hadn't shot any of the wolves, what were they planning to do with the wolves?
Well, they were still planning to shoot them. I mean,
okay.
Wadley, in his mind, was not finished shooting. He said, it was 4 hours with a whole lot of shot missing banners in it in the cut, so he wanted to keep shooting, and they, I guess, had lost confidence. So.
I get shot down by a lot of horror fans, but I like Wolfen better than The Howling.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a wolf year, right? The Howling and
it was.
One and then the Wolfen. What did you remember from being that experience? Was that a good experience, or was it just a job, or was
from being
so creative for Wolfen?
Oh, I enjoyed it. Yeah. I tried to make it scary. I tried to do my best. Yeah. I really was frustrated to some degree because I really wanted to truly fix it for him. I mean, it's a good picture, but it's not nearly as good as the book. Because if you remember, I don't know how many of you read the book, but in the book, they're not wolves; they're wolfen. They're a creature, and this creature is scary. Wolves are like kind of sad dogs, and are not especially scary. They snarl and this and that, but you don't I mean, the dogs in The Omen were scary, right?
Right.
The wolves,
Oh, yeah.
Wolfen are not really scary. So, what I wanted to redo quite a bit of it with a creature, whether they were going to be children or little people, and they didn't want to pay for that. So I was frustrated about that a little bit. Also, they had spent so much on the sets that I wanted to eliminate some of the plot lines that I felt were extraneous and slowing the pace of it. And they wanted to keep those sets, so that I kept them in a token form so that they weren't humiliated by. I mean, Orion was in jeopardy. Orion was about to go out of business because of Wolfen. I mean, interest rate was running at 21%, and they had something unreleasable, and they had something humiliating in the business. You know, I mean, it was. So Mike Medavoy, who was kind of the guy I dealt with there, was a friend, and I felt I was helping save him and save his job, and so I didn't mind replacing Wadley. You know, I'd been fired, and that was painful, and I think unjustly in my case, but I felt that Wadley had sinned against the muse by violating the original book. So I felt I felt he'd done beautiful things, and Jerry Fisher it was the photography by Jerry Fisher was fabulous, and I mean, Wadley was a talented cameraman in his own right, and he hired a great one, and so that it had very interesting visuals, but was short on drama, and so I tried to, you know, make it tense.
It's been hard to see it since I saw it originally in the theater, and I remember liking it, and I was a fan of the book. So when the wolves first showed up, I was a little disappointed, but I think you filmed them so beautifully. They weren't monsters, but you did get the feeling that they were intelligent.
The cameraman, I had Jan de Bont, you know, who later directed.
Yeah.
He was the cameraman. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
nice.
Let's, if we can we switch back to Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm curious how this came to you, John. I know I've noticed in going through these movies that you work with a lot of people repeatedly, actors and
DPs, and I try, and editors. I like to work with people that I've worked with before. Yeah. And certainly I'd worked with several of the actors in Jessica. I made a short that was nominated for Academy Award that made the rounds of the development people at all the studios, and one of them was William Wyler's daughter, Kathy Wyler, who was Joe Levine's development person in New York at that point, and she knew the Mosses that had the Criterion Theater and a string of theaters on the East Coast, and I guess they mentioned that they wanted to do a scary picture, and she recommended me on the basis of that short that I'd made. And so they sent me a script called "It Drinks Hippie Blood." And, it was a parody of a scary picture, and I said, I don't want to do a parody of a scary picture. If you let me fix it and make it scary, then I would love to do it. So they agreed, and that's what I did.
So that was Kalcheim's original script?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And then you rewrote it?
I rewrote it entirely. Well, not entirely. I rewrote it, yeah.
Well, I saw somewhere
that sounds like quite a change.
Yeah.
It does. It does. And it is. You succeeded. I thought I read somewhere that there were two things that they insisted that you leave in.
Well, they wanted a seance, and also that girl that runs around in white in that kind of gauzy outfit, Gretchen Corbett. And I was for the seance, but I questioned Gretchen. But I respected them. You know, often one doesn't entirely respect the producers, but I did in this case because they were exhibitors and they had concrete reality-based experience on how audiences respond to things. And they were able to say, okay, this is the scene where they will go get candy. And I believed them, so I took it out, you know. Or put in a seance because people will like it. And I listened, and I'm glad I did, because I respected their knowledge and it was real. You know, a lot of people are in the movie business but don't see a lot of movies with audiences. And they did. They really knew audiences, and I thought very useful.
Yeah, because they owned the theater chain, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a very unique circumstance. Did you ever get that type of relationship again in another picture? Or?
Well, on Jaws 2, I respected Dick Zanuck because I really thought he knew. He'd made enough pictures that and he actually read each draft meticulously. I mean, I liked him personally, and I respected him as a creative producer.
You mentioned too, or actually he's on the commentary, but I've seen in writing in other places a friend, Bill Battolato.
Oh yes, probably my best friend, who also produced, you know, Top Gun and About Schmidt and a whole bunch of pictures, and Banged Them Slowly. And I met him on this. He was the production manager on Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and then he produced Weeds, a picture I did with Nick Nolte, right? And I just spoke to him on the phone. He just read my latest script and loved it. I'm trying to get. Why don't I just tell you a little bit about that at this point?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. It's called A Love Story.
Yeah, please.
And it's about a New York detective who falls in love with a female serial killer who is knocking off guys that were unjustly acquitted of rape. So she's like a vigilante against guys that have abused women. And it's quite tense and thrilling, and wins prizes at these little, you know, screenplay competitions around the country. And I'm trying to cast it with names that will get it financed. And I'm very high on it. And I've just done a new draft.
Sure.
That I'm liking a lot. I think I've brought another writer on board, a woman named Marcia Brodhacker, and we've made the love story work. So I'm very pleased with that.
It's a solid premise.
Yeah.
Are you attracted to horror? You know, when like Jessica came into your life, or later on when you're doing other horror pictures, or is that just another part of the job, or is there any special love for the genre?
I like the genre. I mean, I'm not a fanboy entirely, but I mean, yes, I like to be scared like everybody else. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Let's Scare Jessica to Death has very different types of scares than other pictures, especially around that time. It's much more subtle, much more goosebumps and creepy, and it gets under your skin. Was that a purposeful approach?
Yes, I was trying to just make it. I was scaring myself. I scared myself when I wrote it. I wrote it late at night in Sneeden's Landing, where I lived. You know, it's a kind of Revolutionary War community 40 minutes from New York, and it's kind of spooky to begin with. So late at night, I'm typing away on this thing, and I got chills. And I thought, oh, this is probably a good sign.
When did Zora Lambert get on board as
well, Charlie Moss and I, who was the producer, he and his father, but principally Charlie was the day-to-day in charge. And I saw everybody in New York, all the actresses, but I'd actually dated Zora briefly. and had loved her in a play called Look, We've Come Through. And then in Mother Courage, she played Katrin, the daughter in Mother Courage. And I thought she was a genius. And I cast her and was thrilled. I thought she made the picture. I think she's really good.
Oh, she's absolutely captivating.
Yeah.
You're totally absorbed by her. Every time she's on screen. It's great casting.
Yeah.
It's a quirky movie, and she is a quirky character. It fits perfectly.
Yeah.
It creates that atmosphere.
Yeah, you feel. I mean, I'm kind of lifting this character background from a Robert Wise picture, The Haunting,
Yes.
with Julie Harris.
Okay.
And so, but I think Zora fulfilled that in her own right. You know, depend on The Haunting. It just, you felt that she wanted things to be nice, but was troubled. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's
Well,
always.
we run into a lot of movies like that where you're trying to decide, is she crazy or is there something going on here? And this one, some are not done very well. This one's done very well.
Done very well.
It seems like a lot of women relate to the film and to that character in the sense that they're afraid of what people are thinking about them. They don't want to say what's actually on their mind because they're afraid people are going to think they're crazy or they're being gaslit. I see a lot of comments from a lot of fans. This is such an unusual film. I have to confess, when I first saw it, late night TV, I saw some pictures. The only picture I ever saw from this was basically the guy with the throat slit on the lawnmower. That was the one they kept showing. And I'm watching it, and as a 9-year-old kid, I was a little disappointed because it was creepy and getting under my skin, but it wasn't the kind of vampire thing I was looking for. And now that I watch it again, I like it for the exact same reason. It gets under my skin. It's not like every vampire movie.
Well, I think it's improved with, it's like wine
It's held up incredibly well. Yeah.
Well, there's no, and I like that there's no, we don't see any vampire teeth, and we don't see vampire teeth marks, which we see cuts and
strange cuts.
Plausible deniability.
Well, we're always wondering if Jessica is a reliable narrator, right?
Well, no, she's not. No.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Poor thing. Right. No, I love an unreliable narrator. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
So how did you shoot the, it's kind of famous, I guess, but when she's out on the pond or the lake and sees the body underwater, was there anything special done there to get that sequence, or just
Charlie Moss and I worked it out in the swimming pool at the motel where we were staying? It was a mannequin in a wedding dress with a wig, and the mannequin was filled with ping pong balls, so it floated. It wanted to float, and it was hooked to cement bricks on the bottom with a pulley, so that we could make it go up and down in the water with the hair, And it was a puppet in essence,
That's great.
It was a very effective.
I would have sworn it was a person.
You're talking Bill's language.
Hey, you're talking Bill's language.
That's genius.
Yeah, because that where it didn't scare you as a child watching it that late night, that what he just described, that the girl under the water scene, is what scared me out of my wits. Because of that,
it creeped me out. The film. I was at an age where I liked horror movies that scared me, jump cuts and stuff. You're getting into that, and this one was totally different. And because they only showed them late at night, and then I had to go to sleep. I didn't want to go to sleep after watching Let's Scare Jessica to Death. It's the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah, because one of the scariest things out of Deliverance is the hand at the end, right? So that whole thing just, I'm getting goosebumps now. Just this movie so affected me.
Did you have any other influences on the script and the movie besides The Haunting?
Well, the turn of the screw, the Henry James. Where you don't know whether it's just in her head or whether it's real. I mean, that was probably the principal influence, right?
So a lot of people try to relate this to Carmilla, the Le Fanu story. And in fact, they have they have J. Sheridan LaFanu, a ghost story from what, the 19th century. Yeah, so there you go. And somebody has put it as a uncredited source on IMDb.
I didn't know it. Yeah.
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 If you have a female vampire, people assume Carmilla is a source.
That's it, right?
Yeah, true.
You know, but I have to go do something. But I wanted to say one thing. You know, there is a guy in Wales, Michael Doyle, has done a book about me that called Hancock on Hancock that tells everything about more than you would want to know about everything, because I'm very indiscreet in it, and I would recommend it.
Get some lovely quotes.
That must be some of the quotes I saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to mention that all these, I thought it was very cool. Not only that you're using these people over and over again, but that they continue to work with you. That shows a trust in you as well.
Sign.
But I mean, back then, Barton Heyman and Alan Manson, and then Marshall Efron.
Oh, I've used Marshall and everything, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else. Glennis O'Connor and a couple.
Yeah.
Jeff Puckett more recently.
Yeah.
So
it's, you know, you develop a common vocabulary, and you know what the person can do, and you write for them a little bit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing now, is there any particular theme that you've kind of followed, or?
No, I've tried not to. You know, I admired the career of William Wyler and that kind of guy who, the only consistent thing is his pictures are good. You know, he doesn't try to make a William Wyler picture. He just treats each subject on its own terms. Yeah.
Well, I as I was watching all of these, it felt like several of them, of the more later ones, I think, well, no, that's not true. Even in 70s, we're sort of coming of age, at least in the background, of different versions of that in different locales and situations. But I'll tell you, every single one of them was entertaining and told a great story that kept me involved the whole time. I wasn't like going, "Oh God, I can't believe I'm watching this." I really enjoyed it.
I'm really glad. I have to run, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate it.
No,
John.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
And good luck on the new project. It sounds great.
Great. Good. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, that was fun.
He's a cool guy, boy. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't warn him how long we went. I sent him a calendar thing for 90 minutes, but anyway.
All right. Well,
pretty sharp too, and a good memory for all those names.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on,
I can't remember the names.
Trying to find it.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, he was asking, he's saying that he thought the movie held up real well, and that's one of the things that I remember remarking on back when we did the review. It's just that this movie doesn't, it only feels old because I know it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really, because it helps that it's in like a rural area. It's not set in any.
Well, there's so many things we didn't talk about. I mean, they drive into town in a hearse.
Mm-hmm.
The hearse has love painted on the side, and what else? He's got that big bass violin. That was his dad's.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was a professional bass violin player at one point. Also, the idea that his dad he grew up on a fruit farm. It sounded like his family was into fruit farming. Mm-hmm. So that sprayer contraption they have there in the movie, and then several of the later movies are in similar settings. Not several, at least a couple. And then the creepy townspeople and the little things that he doesn't dwell on.
Like when they're in the woods, isn't that the word it's on the wood
at the end? Yeah. They're all standing along the side with her, with Emily, the vampire, and they don't dwell on it, but they have somebody makes a comment. I think Jessica makes a comment that why are they all bandaged? And then we start to see that they all have these weird cuts, and they don't really reveal that right at the beginning. You just start noticing it, and then they're just creepy as crap. That one guy is leaning up against the hearse when they're in town. She goes to see the egg guy. He's creepy as hell.
The chickens were creepy.
Oh God! And the one guy's leaning on the hearse, and he's got his foot up against the car, and he's rubbing it up and down. And then afterwards, you see he's rubbing off love off the side of the thing. Just little things in there that there's a lot there. And then he talked a little bit about in the commentary about choosing these elaborate floral wallpapers in all the rooms in the house to kind of depict that age and that kind of stuff. And so that was something I was noticing as they went. That was anyway. I don't know. Bill made these, so we should probably
let's look through them.
Just a few shots.
I
There's
love
not
Zora
a whole
Lampert.
lot to find. She was so good.
Yeah.
Just unique, her voiceover. Yeah, the fact that he really nailed it on the head. She's not only an unreliable narrator, but she knows she's an unreliable narrator. She can't even rely on herself, and that's very interesting. She wasn't a crazy person trying to convince us, the audience, that she was, seeing things other people. She wasn't sure.
I wanted to ask him about, did they, were the voiceovers in the script? Because then acting with space for those voiceovers, I don't know. It seemed natural, but yet, I don't know. And I thought they have that theme, that scene at the beginning, I think, where is she in the boat or something and she's talking to herself. God, I'm just irritated. So much else to talk to him, let myself get distracted by all the other cool stuff.
I know there's so much, a whole career of stuff, but hearing the Wilson stuff was fantastic. So
the voiceover at the beginning is, I sit here and I can't believe that it happened, and yet I have to believe it. Dreams or nightmares, madness or insanity. I don't know which is which. And that's the whole movie, and they tell you right up front,
Right.
It's the first thing you hear in the movie, but it doesn't take away from it.
And then we end up there again.
Yeah. Sorry, Bill.
It's artistic, but it's not. No. I'm still trying to find a place in this house that works for me. It's not artsy fartsy, but I do like it's well made. You can see they didn't have a lot of budget. They didn't have lots of camera cranes and the sort of thing, and a long shooting schedule that you could take advantage of those things. So they selected their shots well. They're well composed. There's an artist's eye to it. Obviously knows how to pick good cinematographers and folks who know how to frame this. They got a lot out of very little movie.
At the end of the movie, everybody is either dead or a quote unquote vampire, whatever's going on there.
Yeah.
Right? From Jessica's point of view. All righty. Had to get my spiels in.
Get that spiel in there. Oh man. Do we have feedback?
We have lots of feedback.
Well, let's do that.
We got feedback. Oh, I'm going to read this one because it's kind of confusing, and maybe you guys can explain it to me. This is on episode 132, Asylum of Satan.
Asylum of Satan.
The William Girdler. Is that right? I said that right?
You did.
From BRN 2579.
Okay.
When Michelangelo Aquino was stationed at Fort Knox, he claims that he and the Louisville-based COS Grotto, anybody understand what that means? Nineveh designed the ritual scene. He claims that the costume was from Rosemary's Baby, but with a different head. Ooh. And that is when he was also writing speeches for George Patton the Younger and developing recruitment propaganda materials for armored cavalry at Knox, circa 1971. So anyway.
Interesting.
I think, does Michael Angelo Aquino mean anything to you guys?
No.
I'm going to do a very quick look up. But I do remember talking about the costume. It says he's listed as additional crew on Asylum of Satan. And he's also got
I
some
found
books
one
listed.
that he's part of the Anton LaVey's Church of Satan, Temple of Set.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Saw that too. Lieutenant Colonel, Psychological Operations, U.S. Army. So interesting. You just don't know what you're going to find in the
feedback. Never know.
So this one is, I can't remember if I mentioned it on this one or not before. I talked about it in 70s or in 80s, but Lone Wolf was kind of off for a while. And he's back with a vengeance. So we're getting, this may be the Lone Wolf comment show the rest of the way here. We'll see. Episode 185, Death Race 2000. Lone Wolf says, outside of this film, Kill Bill and Kung Fu, I remember Carradine in Circle of Iron.
Yep.
Another Bruce Lee project.
Oh, wow.
And Lone Wolf McQuaid, which you can see in my profile picture. Aha. The film also had Robert Beltran, who was the titular character in Eating Raoul and co-starred with Voronov in Night of the Comet and was on Star Trek Voyager. To this day, I wonder if the bigwigs who work at Nintendo thought of this movie when they created Mario Kart. Thanks, guys, for reviewing another 70s classic. Yeah. So, Bill, 186, you want to take Sinbad and Eye of the Tiger?
Sure. Lone Wolf says of Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, Jane Seymour, enough said. She's on my Mount Rushmore of hottest British actresses, along with Carolyn Munro, Yvonne Romaine, and Olivia Hussey. She's actually my favorite Bond girl in my favorite Bond movie, and of course, she gave my eyes a reason to stay open during episodes of Dr. Quinn. And then she started doing all those weird jewelry store commercials. She still looks terrific these days. Sorry that I'm not talking about this movie. She's too beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I will. We'll let that slide. We'll let that slide.
Lone Wolf knows what he likes.
Yes,
he does. He does. Let's see. Dark Star. I'll take that one, Doc.
Sure. I'll take Dark Star. All right. This is Lone Wolf yet again. About Dark Star, episode 187. John Carpenter is one of three guys I immediately think of when there's a discussion about patching a movie together and making a name for yourself in cinema. The other two are Steven Spielberg and Sam Raimi. Dark Star is definitely not what I expect from a Carpenter film, but you can see the blueprint for what was to come. Now we just need someone to cosplay as the beach ball monster at a convention.
Would they know?
Okay.
They know who you were. All right, I'll do this one, and then we got some giallo stuff. 189, The Werewolf and the Yeti, Paul Naschy film. Lone Wolf says, yeah, I remember being disappointed that there wasn't an actual Yeti. But even if Naschy was fighting the lesser-known WCW wrestler of the same name back in the 90s, I'd still watch it.
Wow, the Yeti.
I agree with Bill that Naschy's werewolf is so feral. To me, that's one of the key qualities a lycanthrope should have. Outside of Lon Chaney Jr. and perhaps Oliver Reed, a lot of popular werewolves don't showcase that quality. The most recent example of this kind of ferocity is Benicio del Toro's Wolfman. Say what you want about that film, but I wouldn't want to meet that guy in a dark forest. I may have to revisit that. I really hope you guys get to talk about Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, because I thoroughly enjoyed that one. Oh!
Yes, eventually we will. We will do that eventually first.
Oh, we will. All All right, Bill, you want to do 190 Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Gregory
Sure.
Crosby.
And just one thing, when Lone Wolf refers to the WCW wrestler, the Yeti, you should really look that up because, and I'm not making any of this up, he's a mummy that was frozen in a block of ice. Anyway.
Where else would you?
That's his story, and he's sticking to it.
Okay. Yeah, it made sense at the time. Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Gregory Crosby, 3325 says, another excellent episode, but how could it not be when the subject is this exquisite Giallo classic? The real question is, when are you going to cover Franco Franco's The Glass Doll That Walks in the Blue Shadows of Moonlight, Fulvio Lucci's 5 Victims for the Maniac with Teeth of Glass, and Carlo Baganaro's Traces of Dark Red on a Blue Satin Pillow? You know, I got a feeling these might have been generated by some Giallo title.
AI, is there an AI out there just doing it?
But you know what? I would go see every one of these because Fulvio Lucci is one of my favorites. Shout out for Frederick Brown, a brilliant writer who everyone should read and the author of one of my favorite short stories, Don't Look Behind You. I highly recommend you find the story. It's included in McSweeney's number 45 and read it, preferably when you're alone. Thanks for the recommendation, Gregory.
Yay, Frederick Brown. And I have to recount. I went looking for this story. I probably have around 20 Frederick Brown books. That story is not in any of them.
Oh no! What are you gonna do?
So I found it online someplace, and I went, and it just started. It let me read it, so I'm reading it, and I get down to like I think there was maybe a page or two left.
Oh no!
And then it quit. Then it was like, that's all the preview you get. So
oh no!
I'm gonna have to spend some money, I guess. Get a Kindle, another short story collection that's got it in it. I've got like 3 or 4 short story collections he has, and that story is not in them. Wow! But thanks, Gregory. I appreciate it. Always looking for.
Thanks for giving Jeff a hobby.
He's a great
another hobby.
He's a great writer. He's written some incredibly great twists and shorts too. Is another thing he's really good at. Okay, then Andy Morton, and I need to correct something. I think on one of our other episodes, I said Bill Gabriel was the person who posted the Giallo generator on the Facebook page. It was Andy Morton. So Andy Morton from the UK. Anybody want to take this one?
Sure.
Okay, Doctor.
Andy Morton says, "Hey crew, greetings from haunted Englandshire. I thoroughly enjoyed this week's dissection, of course, of the bird with the crystal plumage. Did I say that right this time? Plumage. It's fascinating to hear your appreciation of the Giallo creeping in like a gloved hand, and welcome compliment to the cannibal werewolves from outer space versus King Kong on wheels gear." Oh my gosh, those are great fun. Of course, a couple of minor points of interest for those who enjoy nerding out on such things. Oh my goodness, this is a lot of stuff. Cool. Ennio Morricone's soundtrack was released as an album in 1970 in the U.S. and was the following year in Italy. What's unusual is that it features different versions of the music rearranged and re-recorded by Morricone himself, which suggests he wasn't entirely happy with the original film's versions. The actual film soundtrack wasn't released until 1981 as part of Ennio, if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sorry, Morricone's film Score Society series, again in the U.S. Susie Kendall, who plays Julia, made her name as a slightly plummy middle-class type in a couple of successful gritty English drama films in 1967, To Serve with Love and Up the Junction, before meeting and marrying Dudley Moore on the set of 30 is a Dangerous Age. Cynthia. Is that part of the title? She then
it is. 30 is a Dangerous Age, Cynthia.
Yeah. The comment there threw me, but it's necessary. Oh, wow. Dudley Moore. Okay. She then appeared in a number of Italian genre movies, including Torso and Spasmo, worth a watch, as well as British action thriller Fear is the Key with Barry Vanishing Point Newman.
Yes.
Kendall barely has a thing to say or do in the film, but it contains some cool car chases filmed in Louisiana and a Chad Hunt friendly downer ending. Nice. Well worth a watch for fans in the early 70s. Down. Yep. Kendall is also credited as a special guest screamer in the superb 2012 Giallo homage Barbarian Sound Studio.
That's a weird movie.
Okay. Oh, I got more. I hope you pursue Argento's Animal Trilogy and looking forward to hearing the four of you getting your eyeballs around Four Flies on the Gray Velvet, starring Michael Dempsey and Makepeace Brandon. Michael Dempsey and Makepeace Brandon. Yes. And featuring one of Morricone's wildest rock-influenced scores. Ooh. Anyway, thanks again for the always entertaining, often eye-popping podcast. Eye-popping. I always set aside an hour for every new episode and scurry off to watch or read something after. Andy. Thank you, Andy. P.S. I'm a music reissue designer, and one of my proudest achievements was working on this box set in 2012. And it goes to Ennio
Morricone in color.
In color.
Morricone.
Is it Morricone or is that what I'm mispronouncing it?
Yeah.
You didn't correct me? Thank you. PPS. I mentioned this in a Facebook post to Jeff before, but I'd love to hear you guys tackle this one, a holiday horror classic and a real favorite of mine. Who Can Kill a Child?
Oh, yeah.
Always watching out for that one. I can't.
It's finding it, right? Finding it.
I don't understand. To me, it's like it would be a perfect film for Shudder to pick up, or Screambox. Either way, that would be perfect.
I could swear it was on one of them, but I guess not.
Well, it hasn't been since, and I kind of quit looking because I found a import Blu-ray that had English subtitles. It might even be, I can't remember if it was English dubbed or not, but I still kind of look once in a while when I'm picking one. I don't go digging into YouTube, and I do look at archive.org, but anyway.
Archive.
It's not that bad. It's not as bad as the title sounds, but it is creepy as all
right.
The title is kind of shocking, isn't it? Who Can Kill a Child?
Oh yeah.
I could.
Well, sure.
Well, hi.
In the right circumstances,
Send all comments to Jeff at. If they're zombies, they're dead.
Sure. If they're the children.
The children. Oh my gosh, the children. What about? Well, never mind. I'll shut up. I think this conversation needs to die.
Anyway, thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Everybody should scroll down in our Facebook group and find the Giallo generator. It's great fun. Gives you a film title, a director, and a synopsis of the film.
Oh man, a synopsis too. Oh wow.
Which reads just like the plot of a Giallo.
So easy to do.
Anyway. Well, Doc.
Yes.
That's all the feedback we have now.
Oh my goodness. Do
we know what the next episode is?
Whose choice is it?
Yours.
Mine. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm looking at a film that I've never seen. Matter of fact, I've never even heard of it. And maybe you have, Bill, and Jeff, maybe you have as well. It's from 1974, and it's called The Killing Kind. Are either of you familiar with it?
I have heard of that. Is there not someone relatively famous actor in that?
Well, John Savage is an actor in it, and then Cindy Williams has a supporting role from Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I remember from.
So where are you sitting? Did you find that on YouTube or
It's
something?
on Tubi.
Tubi? Okay.
Tubi, Killing Kind. And if you guys are interested in that, let's explore that being our next one.
Let's take a chance.
Because I have no idea what it is. It says Terry loved soft furry little animals. He loved his mother. He loved pretty girls. All dead. The Killing Kind.
Oh, you know what? That was directed. That was directed by Curtis Harrington, who is an interesting director. So that actually is something I'd like to watch.
What did he also direct?
Oh, Curtis Harrington. I think he did Night Tide. And one of the hagsploitation ones, like Who Slew Auntie Roo or What's the Matter with Aunt Helen. He's one of those guys. I don't know that he ever hit big, but he made a lot of interesting small films.
He did Queen of Blood.
If I'm thinking of the right person.
Queen of Blood, Voyage to
Queen of Blood. There you go. Queen of Blood. That alone would put you in my book.
Yeah. So Devil Dog, Hound of Hell. There's another one we could do. Who's
much better than you'd think.
Who Slew Auntie Roo, which actually was one that I keep bubbling to the top for me. And What's the Matter with Helen? Ruby.
And I think, Ruby. So I think he worked with Kenneth Anger, who did some really interesting and very influential short films, Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome and Scorpio Rising. So this guy's got an interesting story. Let's hit that one.
Let's do it. How Awful About Alan, which is Anthony Perkins and Julie Harris, Joan Hackett. It'll be something totally different. And
there's lots of It's amazing to me how after 192 plus. Let's see, you had one that was disaster films, and you did
4 movies. Yes, we did 4. Well, maybe more than that. Maybe more.
Not even close to running out. I did want to mention this Charles Mossy was talking about that had the Criterion chain of theaters, if I got that right. Yep. He only produced 3 movies: Let's Scare Jessica to Death, Stigma, 1972, and Diary of the Dead, 1976. And Stigma was written and directed by the same guy that did I Drink Your Blood, David Thurston.
And Diary of the Dead was I think that's the documentary about George Romero.
Well, he didn't.
No, this is a story.
It's a different one. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. 1976, an unemployed man who lives with his wife and overbearing mother-in-law sees an opportunity to relieve himself of the old bat.
Oh, wow.
The old bat!
Harsh.
Which tangles him in a maze of deception. Okay.
Yeah, that's
that. Ooh, and that has Hector Elizondo. Anyway. Yeah, that says writers Ruth Rendell. So that's more of a traditional type thing. Mystery kind of thing, but Stigma.
This might be a good opportunity to invite our listeners to send us suggestions of what film they may like for us to cover. Sure. We had a few tonight in our feedback, but we maybe send us a list of like your 3 favorites that we haven't covered, or even if we have, just send them anyway. I'd love to hear some nice list of movies of what people like. Because sometimes they throw us some curveballs that are crazy.
Yes, they do. So Stigma, even though written and directed by the same guy that did I Drink Your Blood, stars Philip Michael Thomas. Miami Vice.
I know this one. It's yes. This one's got like if I'm remembering right, it's got like a VD backwoods. I guess some creepy
12 years
exploitation.
12 years before Miami Vice. God, I just
what was he, a baby?
Boy, it's been a long time. I guess.
What does it say? A knowledgeable doctor, Philip Michael Thomas, moves to a secluded community and soon discovers a deadly virus changing the town's young people.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess we should go ahead and wrap this up. It was great to speak with.
That's terrific.
I want to talk to him more now.
I do. I was kind of like, come back. Of course, watching this movie right now is a little challenging. It's not available in any streaming unless you pay for it.
It's pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's all pay-per-view. Yeah. I happen to have a DVD of it. But it is, like I said, one of my favorite films.
It's on Tubi, or not. It's on YouTube and archive.org, but it's almost like VHS quality. It's really
no, you don't want to watch that. The restored version of it is it's beautiful.
Right, it deserves that.
Yeah.
Watch it late at night when everybody else is asleep. See it the way I saw it the first time.
Yep.
Creepy.
But it's a slow burn, creepy, under your skin horror film, and the performances of all I wanted to get into the other actors, but of course we didn't have time. But all the actors are fantastic. From the young lady in white who decides to, they decide to invite her into their home, stick around, and she's so creepy walking around.
Right. And I've always the young girl in white who's running around that nobody knows who it is.
The child, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gretchen Corbett, although she was, I believe she was over 20 at this time. She later had recurring roles on Rockford Files. That's what I knew her from. I immediately recognized her when I first saw this.
Nice. All right. So if you can check it out, please do so and let us know what you think. And of course, you can always go back to episode 43. Did you say? Do I have that right?
45.
45. I was close. And listen to Jeff and I along with the Black Saint.
The Black Saint. He loved this movie too.
Yeah, rattle on about this film, and we had a great time back then. I listened to it the other day. It made me sad, but
yeah.
I miss Santos so much.
I know. We all do. That's one of those pains that never seems to go away. At least we still have the podcast to, which I guess is why the pain doesn't go away, because you can put them on and listen to them, and it's like he's still there. But I'm glad we have those.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, should we go ahead and get on out of here while the getting's good?
Yep.
I think so. Sure.
Just like we can find something to talk about.
I can talk. I can chip for a while.
Well, thank you for joining us for a very special episode of an interview. Let us know if you want to hear more interviews like this. It'd be something interesting for us to do from time to time.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it. We did get some feedback from some of our listeners, and we got one question in, although we didn't get the credit. The question, it just kind of came up in the conversation, and that was some questions that we got from Dirk Rogers, and he wanted to talk about Wolfen, and that just kind of naturally came up. So we got his question in, but we didn't really get to talk about Jaws 2 too much.
He had a question about Jaws 2, and actually I'll send him a link, or you can, either one of us can send him a link to that video that you shared.
There's a site called the Daily Jaws, and they had an interview with him a few weeks back, or a few months back, and all about Jaws 2 really gets into it, and a lot of really cool information, a lot of dirt, a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff. And
I thought that was interesting about the editor.
That was interesting.
There's a lot
John said about the editor. So.
If any people know some folks who want to do interviews, or hey, if you're a famous person, give us a call. We'll work in. It's nice if you have something to do with horror, but if Patton Oswalt said he wanted to talk with us for a while, we'd figure out some way to make it work. Sure.
Yeah, all these famous people are watching us. Thank you guys.
Right, that's right.
If you're watching this, we love you. You're famous.
That's right.
All right, Jeff, Bill, thank you for joining me. As always, this is a lot of fun.
all of our viewers and listeners are famous.
They're getting that way.
They're famously good taste.
Good taste. Yes, I like that. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.